The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to All You Can Eat. It's the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal, coming to you live from Miami Beach, Florida, for episode 102 of All You Can Eat. It's lovely here in Miami. But you may hear a little bit of noise in the background because I'm not coming to you from my normal studio back in New York. And that's okay. I hope that won't be a distraction. Welcome back to all of those of you who are returning, and a special welcome to the new folks, just so that it is, so that you know, I do the podcast generally one of two ways, either with a guest, chefs, authors, restaurateurs, journalists, people who are celebrities in generally kind of the food business, the food area, if you will. And then if I go solo, as I am today, I generally provide recommendations. I provide recommendations about places to go and things to eat and things to make. My recommendations are based on my experience because I've been able to travel to places all over the world and kind of enjoy different cultures and certainly enjoy different cuisines, so I write about that oftentimes. And I have a professional culinary degree, and I've written a cookbook, and I teach classes and lecture oftentimes about food and cooking and places to go. So I make recommendations based on my experience, and I literally get about 100, I would say, requests, emails a week from companies that are interested in my trying the product and telling you, listeners, about it. I would say of the 100, I generally choose one to taste, to try, to whatever it may be, and comment on it under no obligation, because I'm a believer in kind of full disclosure. In the event that anybody wanted to pay me to make a recommendation, you folks would be the first to know. So today's program, actually, because I'm coming at you solo, is going to include recommendations, and it's going to include recommendations relative to the upcoming holiday of Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day's coming up. And I got to be honest with you, I don't love the holiday. Not on the very top of my list. I think in general, in fact, I wrote an article here. Let me see if I can find this here. I wrote an article some time ago in the Huffington Post. It's Why No One Loves Valentine's Day. So let me start with that. I'm going to tell you what I think about Valentine's Day, but then I want to come back, and I want to recommend things to do, to eat, to cook, to buy, to know about when it comes to Valentine's Day. I start, though, with the idea that I'm convinced that no one really loves Valentine's Day. If you like candy, you've hit the jackpot on Halloween. For food, obviously, Thanksgiving is the Super Bowl. And for gifts, Christmas is the big kahuna. Now, I'm not saying Valentine's Day is inherently bad. I'm just saying it is certainly no one's favorite holiday, except for, well, Hallmark and Hershey's. And that's part of the problem with Valentine's Day. It is fraught with commerce-driven expectations. Allow me, please, now to grossly generalize, more precisely generalize, which is to say, and I'm reading this from my own article, that women typically have a different perspective on Valentine's Day than do men. For a lot of women, the attitude is like, how much do you love me? You know what I mean? Show me how much you love me. And on this day, that's measured by what she gets. For many guys, the question is more like, oh, hell, what do I have to get her? Because when all goes right, there's a payoff, or what the ladies like to call intimacy. As a sex, however, men are not the most romantically imaginative. And again, I'm generalizing here. We give a card that's been highly personalized by a copywriter at Hallmark. We'll buy you overpriced flowers, and that really does kind of upset me, that the dozen roses are now twice what they cost about a week ago. We'll buy you overpriced flowers, carefully selected by an intern at 1-800-Flowers. And we'll buy you chocolate, because chocolate is the drug that actually makes women feel love. And that's no bull. There's a chemical compound in chocolate that's responsible for feelings of euphoria, hyperventilation, increased heart rate, dilated pupils, and sweaty palms. No joke. Damn, all along we thought it was us. Now, as a food guy, what I'm thinking about is, what are we going to eat? And I don't mean edible panties. We must demand better. And not those cakes either, that are shaped like genitalia. Sure, that's a fine-looking piece of butt cake you're serving over there, but does anybody really get turned on by digging into a pie that looks like a penis? No. Guys, if you can make the meal, do it. There's little that women appreciate more than a home-cooked meal, except for maybe jewelry and extended foreplay. Now, I go with the big three. The big three are oysters, champagne, and chocolate. Oysters because they're a well-known aphrodisiac. Plus, the added benefit is that you can tell a lot about a woman's sexuality by how much they appreciate oysters. Champagne, not just because it's romantic and celebratory, but because anytime you take booze and add bubbles, you increase the likelihood of intimacy. And chocolate because, well, even if you don't induce euphoria, it's good to know that the chocolate will. That was my take some time ago on the subject of Valentine's Day. And I don't feel terribly different now, but I think that, generally speaking, anytime you get to, celebrate love, it's a good thing. And if you have somebody that you love, it's great to be able to share. And there's nothing better to share, if you ask me. Than food and drink. Now, here's another part of the story. It's typical to take people, dates, out on, to a restaurant. And I'm saying, don't do that. I mean, there may be some places where you can go eat outside, and if that's what you want to do, go for it. But I think, safety aside, I think it's always better, even if the restaurant situation were completely normal, I think it's always better to make something. So let's talk about things that you can make. And again, this goes for men or women, either way, which of you feels or do it together. I mean, there's something to be said for, cooking together and dining together and whatever. So let's talk about some of the different, possibilities here. I personally, I think the idea with a Valentine's Day dinner is to keep it simple. It's not about fancy or not fancy. It's about delicious. It always is for me. But it's also a time that you may want to splurge a little bit. Now, having mentioned the oysters before, I'm big on them. They're not complicated cuisine, and if you can get fresh oysters, you have two choices. And as a starter, which is you can either, shuck them yourself, which is not an easy thing, or you can have them, shucked for you and bring them home. And I like oysters, but again, not everybody, not everybody does. I totally understand that. The point being, anyway, that you want to keep the food on Valentine's Day not only delicious and simple, but not too heavy either, right? Because you don't want to get all heavied up. You want to be able to be a little bit light and lithesome and limber in case there's going to be any kind of romantic potential. You don't want to be totally full. Another way to start is, again, I mean, I'm not a big shrimp cocktail guy. I know people are excited when they see it at the wedding and all that kind of stuff. But certainly it's an easy thing to either prepare or to buy prepared and, get yourself some of that nice, sauce, cocktail sauce that goes with it. Lovely. I'm big also on lobster, and it doesn't have to be, again, complicated. Lobster can be purchased already steamed. You could cook it yourself, or I find the easiest thing to do if you want, and I know because I've done it recently, is to pick up some lobster tails. And those are easier to make than having to contend with a whole, lobster walking around your kitchen. You could stick them in, you can, boil them, you can pull them out of the shell, and you can saute them a little bit, you can put them in the oven and roast them, and what do you need for lobster, basically? Well, you need some butter sauce, on the side to dip it in, and that's lovely. I I don't know. I'm hesitant to even talk about octopus at all because it makes no sense. All right, so I'm not even going to get into the octopus. I'm just going to get into the notion of that Valentine's Day is essentially about wine, women, and song. All right, so let's talk about the cocktails. You could go with any cocktail that you and your partner love, of course. I like the idea of bubbles, but it doesn't have to be champagne. There's a couple of red wines that I find very exciting, and they're sparkling. And that's kind of what makes them interesting. The fact that they're sparkling brings, I think, an element of celebration to the table. And one of them is a Lambrusco, which is an Italian red wine that has a lovely little natural carbonation to it. You can go find yourself a Lambrusco, and it's great to celebrate with that, and it's delicious and goes nicely with food. I'm never disappointed with that. And then there is another wine which generally comes out of kind of, I want to say, like the Australian vineyards. And it's not only a Shiraz, but it's a sparkling Shiraz, and it's red. And it is absolutely delicious. So, as far as recommendations go, let me just go right with this. When it comes to some kind of adult beverage with which to celebrate on Valentine's Day, of course there are champagnes. And I'm big. I think when it comes to champagne, I'm a little bit of a purist here. I want it from Champagne country, which is to say from France. But I am super happy having either a nice Lambrusco or a sparkling Shiraz. And I do have a kind of a little preference on the champagne, not only with France, but I like a pink champagne for this holiday. There's just something kind of like lovely and, celebratory about it. Your first course, as I said, can be something as simple as clams or oysters or some kind of shrimp. You don't even have to bother cooking most of those because they're fine raw. But if you wanted to cook them, I got to say, tossing a couple of shrimp in with garlic and olive oil and a squeeze of lemon or lime, a 4-minute cooking job, is really outstanding and delicious. And as I said, your main course, I don't know, what excites you? What excites you and is not terribly heavy to eat and to digest and not complicated to make? I love the idea of lobster. It could also be, I guess it could be anything. I mean, I suppose it's whatever turns you on. I just want to try to keep it relatively streamlined for you. But the big thing here happens when we talk about dessert, because I really do believe in chocolate. So there's a couple things to know. First of all, when it comes to chocolate, I'm saying that there are two things. I'm going to recommend two things that you can make yourself that are both easy and outstanding. And the results are, for the most part, I don't want to say foolproof, I don't want to say guaranteed, we all screw up. But I learned a couple of, the one I learned in cooking school was how to make chocolate truffles, and it sounds like it's going to be complicated, and yet it's not. It's literally 2 ingredients to make chocolate truffles. One being chocolate, and the other being, heavy cream. Because when those two are combined and heated, they form what is known as a ganache. And that ganache is waiting for you to scoop it into little balls, which you are going to call truffles. 1,000 different variations, starting with the chocolate itself, because some people, I happen to love the dark chocolate, but it can be milk chocolate, it can be anywhere in between. And the process for making them entails literally melting some chocolate, adding cream to it, and then stirring it, letting it blend together and cool, and then forming it into little round balls. And then chilling those down, and you have chocolate truffles. And you can top them with powdered sugar to make them look good. You could coat them in some crunched up nuts, or you can just serve them straight up, and they're just easy and good. You could look up a recipe for chocolate truffles, but I guarantee you that you don't need more than the two ingredients, which is to say the chocolate and the cream. It raises a question as to how you melt chocolate. I melt it however it works for you. Some people do it in the microwave. I don't. I always use the double boiler method, which entails getting a saucepan full of hot, boiling water simmering, and then putting in it a glass or even metal bowl into which you have put chocolate chips or chopped up chocolate, and then stirring it occasionally until it melts down. Very simple. Really, don't overcomplicate it. It shouldn't get clumpy. If you use either chips or if you uniformly cut pieces or shaved pieces of chocolate and put that into a bowl over simmering water, eventually it's going to get all melty. There is a question about the different types of chocolate. We talked about that there's dark. There's also, of course, milk, and there are some in-between semi-sweets. There's also white chocolate, and I bring this up for two reasons. You'll always hear people say, well, white chocolate's not really chocolate. It's irrelevant, right? I happen to love this stuff. I will actually remember being a kid in a camp, and at some point there was going to be a trip to Boston, and one of the kids in the cabin said, I can't wait to get to Boston. I said, how come? I'm going to buy myself some white chocolate. I had never heard of white chocolate at that point. I was a kid. I didn't know anything. But I remember having it and then thinking, you know what? This is really, really good. It's not officially a chocolate, but it's irrelevant because it tastes delicious. And I mentioned white chocolate in the context of here's a dessert that you can make if you don't make truffles. Here's an alternative, and I love this. I make this one all the time. I've written about it. It's a recipe in my book. But it's a bark. You ever have bark? You know what I mean by bark? You go into a chocolate store and they have like chunks of chocolate that have things in them, and it's called bark. And I make it a lot. I make it again because my cooking is all predicated on kind of like most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort. Right? That's everything I do is like, how simple can I make this and how delicious? Those are the two kind of criteria, right? So a bark is great because once you have successfully melted a chocolate, all you're going to do at that point is not add in cream to make truffles. You don't have to do that anymore. That was for the ganache. That was for the truffles. No. Go and melt a chocolate. Pick your favorite. Dark, milk, white chocolate. And then once it's melty, you're going to dump in a couple of things into that. I would say that if I'm working with dark chocolate, I always like to have some kind of nut in there. So what's your favorite? You want to do an almond? You want to do a pistachio? You want to do a pecan? Like whatever your favorite nut or mixture of nuts is, that can go in. And I always like to add in the dry fruit. Right? Now you can put in, for example, dried cranberries, craisins. You can do raisins. You've had Raisinets before, so you know the fabulosity of chocolate and dried fruit together. But I throw in a handful of nuts and a handful of dried fruit into chocolate, stir it around, and then you just dump the whole thing on a piece of parchment or wax paper that you have laid out on a counter or on a tray. A baking tray or whatever, and then you let it solidify, either out in the open air, or if that, or you can put it into the kitchen and it gets nice and hard. And then after it is hardened and settled, however long a process that is, a couple of hours, you break it into chunks and you have chocolate bark. Now, I take this opportunity to make specific reference to my Aunt Linda, who makes for me what is the best bark that I can imagine, better than my own. And she uses white chocolate. And she uses pistachios, right? Roasted, salted pistachios. And she uses dried cherries, right? So this combination of dried cherries and pistachio in white chocolate, I'm just telling you, man. It is the bomb, and it's easy to make. You're going to melt. You're going to add. You're going to spread. You're going to chill. Hey, baby, why don't you spread and chill, and you have yourself a 3-ingredient killer dessert. Now, again, this is highly desired and valuable, even if you don't end up making dinner, right? Like, you want to bring a gift to somebody, or you want to just bring the dessert, go ahead and make yourself a chocolate bar. Right? Somebody said to me, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of parties because people aren't really socializing, but I'll tell you what, a couple of bottles of sparkling Shiraz and some white chocolate bark, I have a party. Then just order me a piece of pizza. Let's see. I'm kind of jumping around. Here's another thing I want to say about chocolate, and it comes from my kind of recommendation experience. There are a couple of brands that I love. Now, I suppose you can go into most any supermarket and find some perfectly decent chocolate. But I'm a fan of a brand called Cho, Tcho. If you can see that anywhere, very good. I've always liked the Schaffenberger, Scharffenberger. Schaffenberger makes a lovely chocolate. And I would say Callebaut, right? Callebaut is a really good brand of chocolate that you can find. I would say sometimes more likely to find those in more of a gourmet shop than in kind of a standard run-of-the-mill supermarket, but all good. Cho, Schaffenberger, Callebaut, and some others. It's the bet, because at the end of the day, I hate to use that phrase, but it's the truth. At the end, what matters is the ingredient. The better the chocolate that you're working with, the better your end product will be. And here's one more, just because, it's a sweet holiday and whatever. Here's one more thing you can do. It's another play. Because I think that sweets and dessert are particularly relevant and important on this holiday. So here's 2 other things to consider. One is a Nutella sauce. Now, Nutella itself is the crack cocaine of the kitchen. I mean, I could eat it, just right by the spoonful out of the bottle. But you can also take Nutella and an equal amount of cream, let's call it a cup of each, put it in a saucepan and heat it up, and then it gets all melty. So it makes a lovely kind of topping for a scoop of ice cream. Nothing wrong with that. Easy to do. 2 ingredients, deliciousness. Nutella, heavy cream. And then I'm going to throw one more dessert recommendation at you, which, again, huge fan of, included the very simple recipe in my book. It's called affogato. Affogato has become increasingly more popular. It means drowned in Italian, and it's because you're essentially going to drop a hot cup of espresso over a scoop of vanilla ice cream, and that little interaction there creates loveliness, a warmish sauce that combines the vanilla cream with the espresso coffee flavor, and it's just delightful. I'm big on gilding the lily, and what I mean by that is I toss on a 3rd ingredient for texture, and that 3rd ingredient is, like Heath Bar Crunch. Vanilla ice cream. So again, simple, 3 ingredients, but amazing. Vanilla ice cream, a hot espresso, and a handful of, a big handful of, of the crunch from the Heath Bar. Love that. Valentine's Day, wine, women, and song. Now, when it comes to song, this is going to be more of a personal thing. But I was watching, American Idol. I see an interview the other day with Lionel Richie, and the subject of his love songs came up, and it turns out that he gets quite the bump in royalty payments right around Valentine's Day. So, when it comes to kind of like some songs to put on your personal device, on your Sonos, on your Spotify, on whatever it is that you use to listen to music, here are 3 names that I put out. One is Lionel Richie. I personally, not for me, I'm offering this up for you. I don't have any Lionel Richie on any of my soundtracks, but I do have Marvin Gaye. And, I think Let's Get It On is certainly apropos. And I have another artist whose name is Teddy Pendergrass, who I love, love, love. The sound of Philadelphia. And if you tune into Teddy, you are going to find some songs that will have words like, close the door, you know what I've come here for. That kind of thing. So Teddy, big on love songs. Teddy Pendergrass, Marvin Gaye, and if you go for it, Lionel Richie. I forgot to mention, by the way, in the chocolate, you can certainly add Valrhona into that list. I mean, that's like if you're in cooking school, you're using either Calabo or Valrhona. Giant kind of chunks of super high-quality chocolate, easy to melt. You're going to cut it up and melt it, and then you can turn it into, as we discussed, anything from a bark to a truffle to any of those kind of things. Right, so there you go. We've done some chocolate. I've given you a couple of different edible ideas. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that makes sense to kind of keep it. You know what? Here's the truth. I'm not into promoting the fancy. If you can figure out how to, I know it doesn't sound exciting. I guess for me, though, it still is the perfect roast chicken. I mean, all you really need is kind of like some salt and some lemon and some garlic and a hot oven or a cast iron pan or even an air fryer, which I'm super big on these days. All right, look, we don't have to get into it. I just think that like a perfect roast chicken, a nice glass of wine, a loaf of bread like a baguette, keep it simple, and then you have any one of these fabulous desserts you can use. Finally, if you want to go a completely other direction, one of the things that I was sent, which I will tell you about here, is I can't even tell you the name of the company. I have a picture, though, in front of me that is a picture of a woman, mostly shot from behind and isolating, essentially, her exterior, her rear end. But it's they're selling a pair of panties, but it's particularly vivid to me because on the panties are imprinted martini glasses with olives in them. One is a male olive, one is a female olive, and over each pair of olives is a little heart. And what it says on the panties, in addition to just having martini glasses on it with 2 little loving olives, it says extra dirty. And so, there you go. That's another super possible Valentine's Day gift. Look up extra dirty panties for Valentine's Day. That is it for this evening. I'm going to keep it short because, I have some dessert to make. But beautiful holiday. Share the love. Cook together. Keep it simple. Keep it clean. Drink something fabulous, make a terrific dessert, put some sexy music on your playlist, and enjoy a happy Valentine's Day. I will be back with you and some more guests next week, same time, same place. If you want to hear any of the all-you-can-eat podcasts, you can find them, of course, on the 2 of the largest podcast networks in the world, either on Spotify or on iHeartRadio. You just have to look up All-You-Can-Eat. Or maybe you look up me, Rob Rosenthal. I don't know. If you are looking to know a little bit more about cooking, specifically, you can... my book. Right, yeah, Short Order Dead. You can certainly take a look at my book online, Short Order Dead. You can buy it, I'm sure, at Amazon. Go ahead and read the reviews. I'm happy with them. Proud of them. I love nothing more than when someone calls me and says, hey, I just made one of your recipes and it was great. Like that's super gratifying for me. If you want to find me in the world of Twitter or Facebook, in those cases, go by Short Order Dad. If you happen to want to see what I've been eating and cooking, you will go to Instagram under Real Rob Rosenthal. And so there you go, episode 102, Miami Beach, Valentine's Day, back with you soon. And remember, as I always say, my friends, life is short, so never waste a meal.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on